Hi, everybody. I'm Skip Skivington with Kaiser Permanente. I'm serve as our Vice President for Healthcare Continuity Management. I want to thank you so much for spending the time with us on this very important topic, the topic of wildfires and how to prepare for them, both at the individual level and the organizational level. Your participation here is just so invaluable. And, you know, preparing for anything is a journey, and it starts with things like this, just getting a session like this so you become aware of some key facts. So we've got a great team that we're going to introduce to you in just a second, and they'll go through some really practical tips and tricks to make sure that you're safe, your family's safe, and most importantly, that when you're safe, then the whole organization itself becomes safer, and we can perform our mission that is so needed during times of crisis, such as wildfires. Before I begin, I'd be remiss if I didn't call out a couple of folks that really put a lot of work into making sure this goes off well today. So Randy Polich from National Communications, Larry Kless and his team from National Communications, as well as Andrea Persons Brown, who runs the meeting services group for Kaiser. So with that, I wanted to let you know that we have two really great co-presenters with me today. First of all, Luke Beckman, who is with the American Red Cross and is their California Disaster Director. He's been leading international, national, state, and local disaster operations since Hurricane Katrina back in 2005. He's extremely passionate about personal and family preparedness and has responded to every major wildfire over the last 4 years, and is normally found in an affected community, helping coordinate sheltering and recovery efforts at the state or at the State of California Operations Center. And he leads the state with mass care, the mass care task force. So he's really engaged, very involved. Secondly, Dr. Susie Fitzgerald, who I've worked with for many, many years as an emergency physician here at Kaiser and at our Santa Rosa Medical Center. She is the Northern California Emergency Management Training Director. And if you've ever taken one of her courses, you know how passionate she is and how excellent she is in delivering complicated issues in a very understandable way. She's part of the Northern California Regional Emergency Management Team and the Northern California TPMG External Disaster Relief Lead. And as such, you can find Susie being deployed not just here in the United States, but internationally as well, as she has been on several disaster events, including the Haiti earthquake and the civil war in Sri Lanka. So if you have questions throughout this presentation, please feel free to send them through the Q&A function, and we'll try to get to as many questions as possible. We already gotten some in advance of the session, and we'll be trying to address those as best we can. Now, we're going to start this presentation with a short video, and there will be several videos throughout the presentation today. For those of you who've been through an evacuation, been through the trauma associated with a wildfire in any way, shape, or form, please be mindful. We don't want to cause any additional trauma or PTSD situations or anything like that. So if you feel it's overwhelming, turn away, turn down your volume, and then it'll only be for a short minute or two for the videos, and then you can come back and get the content. So we wanted to make sure that you were mindful of that situation. And so with that, we'll start off the presentation with a short video.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Luke Beckman with the American Red Cross. I serve as the Division Disaster Director for California State Relations. And wildfires are a topic that are near and dear to my heart. It's personal for me. It also is something that I'm very excited about, and here's why. I'm excited to share knowledge and learnings and years of experience in the field with each of you. We did a survey. Thank you to those of you who filled out the survey ahead of this presentation. We've been able to look through this, and we learned a lot from each of you in terms of what you're interested in, what you're concerned about, maybe some things you're excited to prepare for. And we're going to cover some tips and tricks today that are actionable and they're practical. We want to help get you and your family and the Kaiser Permanente community Red Cross ready. So today we have 6 major learning objectives, and we're going to go through each in detail, and we're going to try and keep them short, sweet, and to the point so that you can take what you learn and actually do something with it. One thing we know we struggle with when it comes to preparedness is people learn a whole lot, they listen to things, and we don't see a lot of action on the tail end. So we've really tried to tailor this for you to help make it actionable. So we're going to talk about how to look up your wildfire risk. A lot of people don't actually know how affected they might be by wildfires. Also, you might know that there's a risk of a wildfire, but how are you going to respond if you don't know a wildfire is burning, or if there are red flag alerts, or there's going to be a power shutoff? So we'll talk about emergency alerts. We also want to talk about if a wildfire gets close to you, your community, or your home, how you can get out. So we're going to talk about evacuation planning. There's some easy steps that you can take with your family. And then as a wildfire might get closer, we want to make sure that you can get out quickly and safely. In order to get out quickly and safely, you have to get the right supplies, your pets, people who might need a little bit of extra time. So we'll talk about creating a go bag, those essential supplies that you want to have with you so that the whole experience of a disaster is maybe just an inconvenience, not a true disaster for you and your family. And the last objective we have is things you can actually do to protect your home in the last minute, but also starting today to get ready for wildfires. Why are we here? Well, I think a lot of us are experiencing some heat wave right now. But if you look at some of these press clippings on the right-hand side, wildfires are becoming more of a threat in California and across the Western United States. There are over 4.5 million homes that are at risk for wildfire in the US. 2 million of those are in California alone. So a lot of the risk is in California. Fires are getting more frequent. They're burning more acres. And this is the other kicker. They are exhibiting stronger and less predictable behavior. So the things that we did in the past that we might be more used to, that's changing. You're hearing terms like a fire-nado or the fire jump the freeway. This is more unpredictable, less predictable fire behavior. And we want you to be ready for that. Also, temperatures are rising. There is less rain. And when that rain comes, it's coming later in the year. So we used to talk about a fire season. If you go out and talk to almost any firefighter you can find, they're probably going to say, well, we live in a year-round fire season. And that's becoming more and more true. Compared to last year, so 2011, just this period of time from January 1st to June 17th, there are 40% more fires burning in the US, and they are burning 68% more acres than last year. Last year was not a good fire season. Some would say catastrophic, some would say unprecedented. But if we look at the data already, even though it may not have hit the news for you right now, it's already worse. So when we think about fires, there's actually a progression. We usually start to see things like power shutoffs. In California, they talk about public safety power shutoffs. Then you might see wildfires because of the high winds and the fire sparks and the fire moves. And then there's also smoke which affects many more people than just those who are affected by the fire front itself. So we'll talk about each of those today. What I'd like to do is actually share my screen with you, and I want to show you the first tool, the best tool there is to look up your wildfire risk. And believe it or not, it's called wildfirerisk.org. We made it easy for you. So this is a great product out of the US Forest Service and the US Department of Agriculture. So wildfirerisk.org, you can do this right now while you're watching. But if you go click on Explore, this is going to help me figure out my community. You're not going to put in your address. What you're actually going to do is put in the name of your community, maybe your county. So let's actually look up Santa Rosa today. So I see a bunch of Santa Rosas, but we're going to look up Santa Rosa, California. This first tab, there are 4 tabs across the top. Risk to homes is the most important for you. So you'll see in the center of Santa Rosa, there's not a whole lot of direct risk to the homes, but you start to see a lot of yellow and the orange and the red around those neighborhoods. The red is worse, white is the best. But you see here, there's some relative risk. That's important for us. So people who live in Santa Rosa on average have 30%, 36% greater risk than other communities in California. And you can kind of see where Santa Rosa falls, and you can hover over some of the other towns and neighborhoods. And this is how bad are wildfires and how likely are they to be. So Santa Rosa's kind of in the middle. You can also look at the exposure type. This is an important thing because you might say, where do the wildfires come from? If you see red, that's actually the fire, the forest that might burn. If you see the orange, we've got usually a lot of really tightly packed homes. And so the fire actually can spread from home to home to home, or what we call ember ignition, where embers that shoot in front of the fire catch on a home, they light that home on fire, and then that home burns the next home. The third tab we have here is wildfire likelihood. How likely, not necessarily how bad is the fire, but how likely is that fire to occur? Then we also have the last tab, which is vulnerable populations. So this is to actually help you understand from a work perspective, from the Kaiser perspective, and from your community, your neighborhood perspective, you can see, well, how vulnerable are the people who live here, regardless of whether a fire happens or not. And we actually have 6 categories that they define as most vulnerable to wildfires: families in poverty, people with disabilities, people over 65 years of age, people who have difficulty with English, households without a car, and that's important for evacuation, and people who might live in mobile homes. Mobile homes generally ignite more easily than a standard single family home or an apartment complex. So when you look at those things, you can kind of see where Santa Rosa stacks up. So that is wildfirerisk.org. The next thing we'd like to show is we'd like to show you not just your wildfire risk, but also, well, what can I do? What are the things that might happen to me? And we've got a great website for you. It's called plan.readyforwildfire.org. This is a CAL FIRE website, the California state level forestry firefighting organization. And you will have to create an account with just your regular email and a simple password to get your survey results. But when you take this survey, I'm logged in here, and you'll see that they also have a really cool mobile app. You don't download anything, you just go to a web page. But as you click through, you can put in, we just did Santa Rosa. So I could just do Santa Rosa again, Santa Rosa, California. I'll click next. You pick whether you're a homeowner or a renter. We'll be a homeowner today. And you can click the things that apply to you. These are things where there are very specific actions that you can take when it comes to wildfires. So we'll click all of them. Also, when we think about individuals, children, seniors, or people with disabilities or access and functional needs, perhaps, we'll check all these boxes just so I have a long checklist. And do you have livestock, pets, or vehicle? And it will now calculate my customized, personalized checklist for me and my family. So the site's going to think. And what you're going to get is you're going to get different categories that you can click into, from a wildfire action plan, how to prepare for evacuation, animal evacuation, defensible space. Defensible space is basically area going from basically your home. We think of our home as a fortress, moving away from your home, trying to prevent fires from getting close to your home. So that's clearing debris and brush and trimming branches, things like that. And then home hardening is what you can actually do on your home as that fortress, right? So the embers, which cause most homes to burn, so that embers don't get on or in your home. So that's this tool. It's extremely helpful. I know a lot of people are asking, hey, can we get some checklists? Oh boy, we have some checklists for you today. We have some evacuation checklists. We're going to talk about some tasks that you could perform to actually practice. You'll hear this theme from me throughout the session. Practice makes perfect. We talk about it in the professional setting. We talk about it in sports. It's equally important when it comes to wildfires and keeping ourselves and our families safe. We've got to practice. So that's what I wanted to cover when it comes to these checklists. Next, we're going to talk about alerts for just a minute here. Alerts are extremely important. We need to know about the fire so that we can do something. So very quickly, in most counties in California, you could right now on your phone text 888-777, and that will actually opt you in to emergency alerts. We're talking about a multi-phased approach here. Think of tools in our tool belt. A lot of times the power may go out, you can't get a phone call through, you're not going to get email. So we're going to talk about a couple different ways that you can sign up for emergency alerts. So the first one, you can download the Red Cross Emergency Alerts app. I've been getting heat advisory messages for the last 24 hours on that app. Your city or your county also have specific alerts. You can do a Google search for emergency alert and then just add the name of your county or your city, and it'll take you to that sign up page. You can also sign up for alerts from your utility provider. In California, PG&E, SCE, San Diego Gas and Electric, SoCal Edison, right? Different utilities have alerts themselves as well. If you're on Twitter or Facebook, follow your local fire, police, sheriff, and emergency management agencies if you can, because they're going to put out real-time information about emergencies, especially evacuations. So what I'd like to do next is we're going to show a clip that talks about some evacuee stories, so you're not just hearing it from me and Dr. Fitzgerald, you're hearing it from some people who've recently lived through wildfires. And I think this clip is actually from some families in Oregon, but they tell the story really, really well.
So we kept an eye on the fire, went to bed, and then about 5:30 got up, and we could smell smoke in the house. And he said, we got to get out of here. We had no power. Actually, we had no power shortly after we got home on Monday. And so we have a garage door that is dependent on electricity, so he would have had to manually open that. And when he went out to open it, the fire was at our neighbor's fence and was headed toward our shed, and we knew we didn't have time to get out, so we just took the dogs and ran to the river. And so we came out and sat on the bank, and we were there from 5:30 in the morning till we were rescued at 11:30 at night. It looks like Dante's Inferno. I left my wallet in the house, so I have no wallet, but my husband had his wallet. And my iPhone, when I got in the river, I fell, and my iPhone was in my purse, and so I don't have an iPhone that works. Essentially, we lost everything, except our lives and our dogs, which is the most important thing. And hopefully our cat will go back and see if she made it.
So you heard a couple really important things there that family learned the hard way. The message that I want to share with you all today is when in doubt, get out. Right now, we have lots of time. And during the fire, we may not have a lot of time. So when in doubt, get out. Now, I'd like to turn this over to Dr. Susie Fitzgerald to talk about preparedness from a firsthand account and to talk about what she does to prepare and why.
Thank you so much. So I would like to take a few minutes to delve a little deeper into the why, really from the personal perspective, colored with an emergency management lens, but also really that lens is tinted by several years of living in an increasingly dry and wildfire prone area, both Oakland and now up in the North Bay. So really first, we should prepare and plan because we can. We know now that we need to be prepared for this possibility in many areas in California, and we have the luxury of time. Many did not. Looking back several years ahead of the Tubbs fire, those folks, we didn't know, none of us really understood at that time this risk of rapidly out of control, fast spreading wildfires. We didn't understand that risk. And there were so many that didn't have the time to prepare to evacuate, didn't have the time to grab anything. And in some cases, lost absolutely everything. In some cases, even their lives. We are in a different setting now. We know that this risk exists and we have time. We have time this afternoon. We're all here spending this time right now, and thank you for doing that. But we really should be doing this because we can. We have the luxury of time, and we know it's really important work. So second, we really plan and prepare because we should from other perspectives as well. So first of all, the research on how our brains perform in disaster show time and time again, the more prepared and the more practiced we are, the more muscle memory we have developed for our response, the safer we are, because the better our brains perform when we stress them enough ahead of time to really, really just drop into a functional and action-based mindset. And that is super important when you are taking care of yourself or others in a disaster environment. And we really, really owe it to ourselves to be as prepared as possible for that reason, to keep ourselves safe, to keep anyone that we care about, anyone or anything, frankly, that has a heartbeat that we care about and is in our immediate kind of purview, anyone that may be dependent upon us, children, elders, pets, and so on. The more prepared we are, the more quickly we can get all of us to safety should this ever come to pass. I think the third point I really want to make is that we really owe it to those in our communities as well. And by community here, I'm speaking of our healthcare community. We are all in one role or another in healthcare, and we signed up to take care of folks and our patients. We signed up to take care of those with medical needs. We are in the healthcare community. We are part of the healthcare community, and we really owe it to ourselves, our colleagues, to do whatever we need to do ahead of time to be as prepared as possible to take care of our own personal situations, whatever our family structures look like, get ourselves and our families to safety, and then turn our attention outward and look and see, what does my community need? What does my healthcare organization need? How can I help? And that may be going to work at the hospital, that may be going to work at another hospital, it may be helping at a medical shelter. There's all kinds of different things that we end up doing as healthcare workers in an event. But it's what we signed up for when we signed up to be part of the healthcare community. And it is truly a responsibility. And then lastly, I want to share sort of a personal case study. We really need to plan and prepare and or sometimes revisit what we think is perhaps a relatively high level of preparedness. We need to revisit that periodically. And I come to this realization personally, sort of the hard way. I've learned this lesson a few times. I've lived in Oakland prior to moving to the North Bay. And the first time I had to prepare to evacuate was in Oakland. I used to live in the Oakland Hills, close to where that original very large catastrophic fire happened. Several years ago, a fire broke out about, I don't know, maybe a mile, less than a mile from my condominium. You can see the smoke, you can see the helicopters, all of that. And this is very close to the location where that first fire broke out. So I looked outside, started getting text messages and phone calls from people about it. And I realized, okay, well, I need to at least prepare for the possibility of evacuation. Started packing things up. It took me several hours to pack up what I judged to be the most important things that I wanted to save, should it come to that. And those for me were personal items, family photos, all of those things that can't be replaced. Anything that could be repurchased, I didn't worry about. It took me so long to do that by the time I was ready to go, there was no need to go. The fire was out. And that was a really good lesson for just a good lesson in personal preparedness. So the next time that I really remember having to prepare to evacuate was the Tubbs fire. And those were the Santa Rosa fires in 2017 in the wine country fires. I now live in Sebastopol. We are pretty far away from the area that was directly affected by the Tubbs fire. Like many others, I woke up in the middle of the night to learn that there were widespread, rapidly spreading fires in the community. The ED at Kaiser Santa Rosa, where I worked clinically, had sent out a call for assistance with fire surge. I got up, I got dressed, and I started to take, again, the steps that I needed to take to keep my family safe. My family that night in our home was my partner, Fred, our dog, Gracie, and my mom, who happened to be visiting from Southern California. So I started to get them squared away. I packed my car in case we were evacuated while I was gone helping at the medical center. I grabbed medical equipment, change of clothes, scrubs, etc., some energy bars, water, thinking, oh, I'm going to be going to work and I'm going to be there for a while. And then I grabbed personal items again that I thought were most important. I thought I was really, really practiced with that and I knew exactly what to grab. Well, it didn't take several hours, I'm happy to report, but it did take over an hour, which frankly, from the perspective of an emergency a person who works, spends much of her work time in the emergency management realm, I'm frankly a little bit abashed to admit that it took me that long, but it was another very, important lesson. So it should have been a faster process. It wasn't. Finally, I was ready to leave, and I did. And I went to the medical center. And unfortunately, instead of helping fire surge, we then, of course, had to evacuate the medical center. So these days, I have a different setup at home. During red flags and really fire season in general, I keep a set of clothes, comfortable, sturdy clothes by the bed. I keep a pair of sturdy shoes. I keep a headlamp. I pre-store items. There are a few items in my house that I really would be very, very upset to lose. And looking back on several colleagues and knowing that so many lost so much, I've had a chance to evaluate what is really most important. And so I pre-store a few items at a different location. That's a little extreme. I recognize that, but it helps me sleep at night. I also, if we're in a true red flag or things are just looking a little bit dicey, I pre-stage everything else. It's either by the door ready to go, or in some cases, I pre-pack the car. Again, a bit extreme, but part of my preparedness is being able to get out the door as fast as possible, because I have a responsibility to Kaiser in my emergency management role. So I really need to be ready to go as quickly as possible. Plus, I frankly sleep a whole lot better knowing that it's just a grab and go. It's literally a wake up, grab and go if something happens in the middle of the night, as compared to a wake up, stumble around, figure out what you need, pack it up, and then go, which is a different scenario. So with that, I will hand it back over to Luke. He's going to delve into some planning and preparedness details.
Thanks, Susie. So what can we do today? And it starts with having a conversation. So for me, I schedule it over dinner with my family. And here's some questions that you can talk about with your family, your friends, your neighbors. Does anybody need any extra help or time when it comes to evacuation, right? Getting someone into the car, or packing up, or grabbing medical equipment. Think about those things, as Susie mentioned. What are those things that you want to bring with you? What can you live without? What can't you? What about your animals? I know people who've taken, we talk about herding cats. Try herding cats as a wildfire gets close to your house. It might take you an hour and a half to find Mittens, who's gone upstairs under the bed in the far corner. And so we really want to think about our pets. And we want to think about them early. Where are you going to go? You don't just want to evacuate. Are there people you can stay with? Maybe a housing or an evacuation buddy, somebody who's out of town that you can stay with for a couple days. Shelters, the American Red Cross operates many shelters across the state, across the country. We offer those for free for people. A lot of hotels will book up early. So if you have pets or people with access or functional needs, are there some hotels that you can pre-identify? How are you going to communicate? Maybe the cell towers go down. The trick, and if you can't get anything through, radios might be your best bet, but I encourage everybody to text. A lot of times a text message will go through when a phone call won't. And if you stay off of the phone calls, that actually frees up bandwidth for emergency responders for them to be able to communicate. And schedule time to practice. Can't overemphasize that. You might think it's going to take you 30 minutes, double it. Whatever you think you can do, think about all those different things and the steps you want to go through, double that. That's probably what it will take you in a best case scenario. But with practice, you can get it down to 5-10 minutes. And we've got some good checklists for that. Some other things that we can think about. This is an easy one. You can do it right now. You can do it today. Take your camera, take your phone, hit record, walk around your home and record everything inside your home. And what I mean by that is walk around, open the drawers, kind of describe what you're looking at. Say, hey, here's a guitar, it's a whatever. Here's this jewelry that I have. Here are these backpacks, these books. If something happens to your home for insurance purposes or for just any kind of reimbursement or funding, that's going to save you hours and hours and hours and a whole bunch of pain and suffering. Backing up your documents, take pictures of them or make copies and put them in a fire safe box. Susie talked about the go bag that you can have packed that you want to keep accessible. And that should be personalized to you and your family. And we've got some tips and tricks on that in just a second. The next thing I want to get to is, well, what about when the fire seems a little bit more likely? Well, what are those conditions? Well, could be hot temperatures like today, but specifically power shutoffs, red flag conditions, high wind warnings, any smoky sky or fire in the distance. If you hear on the news or the radio, right, the TV's talking about a fire that's saying, hey, that's kind of close. I don't want you to go outside and get on the phone and talk about, well, is the fire going to get close to my home? What I don't want you to do is to start recording it with your phone and say, hey, this is cool, and share it with your friends. I want you to start thinking about, hey, let's get everything gathered. Let's get ready to evacuate in case we need to. So that's just revisiting our plans. Those checklists that we're going to give you today that we're talking about, put them up on your fridge so that you can just roll right through them. Have another conversation with your family. Talk with your neighbors, knock on their door. Pack your car, corral your pets, right? Either get them in crates, cages, put the leash on so they're not going to go somewhere. And then also charge your phones up. Let's talk about some of the supplies for just a minute. Well, a go bag, as I said, can be personalized. It should be. But here's some of the big things. I won't read through everything, but the biggest things that we see in the American Red Cross, we catch, right? The firefighters fight the fire. They help evacuate. Law enforcement does the evacuation and they help control the roads. And we catch with the mass care and the sheltering. And so I see by the tens, the hundreds, the thousands, the tens of thousands, what people wish they brought and what people do bring. And you won't imagine how crazy it can get. Some people will bring a single shoe. They'll bring one sock. They'll bring the yard flamingo. I've seen some very strange and weird things that people bring. And that's when the disaster brain kicks in, right? But if you already have that go bag packed, if you're following your checklist, you're going to grab the things that you want to bring, not the things that you wish, this filled up my car? I don't need this basketball, right? I could have grabbed something important. But extra medications, eyeglasses, and dentures, those are the number 1, 2, and 3 things that we see people forget all the time. It's hard to replace those. We can do it, but it takes a lot of time and it'll make your life a lot easier if you can bring those things. Pet supplies, right? That extra leash and that collar, that bowl. When you're thinking about going, we want to dress for the fire. So long sleeves, long pants. We want to wear cotton or wool rather than synthetic. We're going to stay cooler and they won't melt to our clothes in case an ember or ash kind of hits us. An extra headlamp. You want to keep your hands free. So if you've got a headlamp, you'll see a lot of kits will come with a flashlight, but if you can do that headlamp, you're working free and you'll see that it's really hard to see during a fire. We talk about water and maps, emergency contact numbers, but those documents, you cannot replace some of those documents and that will take you hours and hours and hours. So backing up those documents, whether you want to have hard copies or whether you want to back it up in the cloud by taking pictures or scanning them. Now, what about when it comes to evacuating? You see here those taillights? That is what we see over and over again on fires during evacuations. People get backed up, right? There aren't a lot of routes out of town necessarily. So the earlier you can go, the faster you're going to get out, the safer you're going to be. So getting those pets in carriers, cages, or putting them on leash, that's going to save you a ton of time. Getting out early will save you time. When in doubt, get out. Use your checklist. We'll talk about those at the end, but you're going to keep hearing me say checklists. We've learned these lessons, and this helps you focus on the important things, not waste your time wondering about what I could, should I could, what does this look like? And then preparing your car. We talk about some easy things you can do, some pro tips almost, is you want to back your car into the driveway if you have a driveway. It's a lot easier to get out going forward than backward in a wildfire. The visibility is really low. Plus your car is probably going to be full and you don't want to crash your car. Also, keep those gas tanks half full or more. So when you get to half a tank, I want you to think about filling back up. Don't run it to empty because the last thing you want to have happen is we're in that traffic, the car runs out of gas, and now we've got to walk on foot. That's not where we want to be. Plus, gas stations are probably going to lose power if you have those power shutoffs and they won't be able to pump. So now we wanted to show you another clip of folks talking about what they've experienced and what we've learned from some fires. And this one, I believe, is from the Camp Fire up in Butte County, California from a couple of years ago.
No matter what plan you have, there is the possibility that the crisis or disaster you're facing is of a greater magnitude than what you could reasonably plan. Tens of thousands of people were able to get out of that. So I think you can always learn from the situation, but there were a lot of things that went as right as they could have gone under the unprecedented incident that we're dealing with. And I think it's important to put it in the context of how rapidly this fire was developing. It almost felt as though this fire was outrunning us before we even knew we were in a race. You have to figure out, well, how do we effectively evacuate a zone, keeping in mind that if you just tell everybody to get out at one time, you have this scenario where you have this mass evacuation, you clog up the roadways, and so you try to evacuate in a systematic manner. That, I think, works well when you're dealing with a fire that isn't moving as rapidly as this one. We try to message on a number of different platforms, utilizing our Code Red, which is basically the system to call people's landlines. We try to push the information out through our social media platforms. But in addition to that, we were sending law enforcement officers up into those neighborhoods. I mean, I'm up there in Paradise myself, and I'm listening to the radio about deputies being trapped or police officers being trapped in areas. I hear them talking about how they're going to have to abandon their vehicles and try to find shelter, about how they can't get out of where they're at, and there was citizens calling for a fire engine or calling for an airdrop because they were trapped, and the response back is, there are no more resources. We don't have any resources. I honestly believe that we were going to have dead law enforcement officers.
So that was a short clip from Sheriff Honey up in Butte County, talking about some really hard lessons. He's an incredible leader, but you start to hear about some tough choices that law enforcement had to make in some of the situations that they ran into. And that could happen to your town. That could happen to almost any town that could burn from a fire. So we didn't want to leave this presentation today without talking about what happens in the worst case scenario, some tips and tricks for things you can do to try and keep yourself and your family safe when it gets really, really close and personal with that fire. So if you become trapped, you might find yourself inside the home or outside the home. It's going to be a lot cooler inside the house than outside the house if you're trying to flee the home. But when you're inside, you want to stay away from walls, get those long sleeves on, try and fill up sinks and tubs with water. If you've got a fire extinguisher, which we recommend in that go bag, you want to keep that close in case you see any fires pop up. Some wet towels under the doors to keep that smoke out, and you want to stay low. And staying low also applies to being outside the home. If you're in your car, which is more than likely, you want to stay inside the car. It will be cooler than trying to get out of the car and going on foot. But if you're on foot, you want to try and get to an open area. That could be an area that just burned, a field, pavement, something like that. You want to get low. If you're in the dirt, covering yourself with soil can actually help keep you a little bit cooler. And you want to breathe air, again, staying low. You want to breathe air closer to the ground. You're probably going to have a mask on or a bandana, something at that point, and you don't want to wet it, because actually a wet mask with that moist air, that can do some more damage to the lungs than if that mask is dry. If you're outside, if you can get to water, kneeling down in that water or getting low in a creek, a lake, a pool, a riverbed, that can also really help to protect you. So now that we've talked about ourselves, right, keeping ourselves and our families safe, let's talk just for a minute about protecting your home right before you go. So there's some things you can do that actually will really help try and reduce the likelihood of fire impacting your home or burning your home. And so when we talk about each of these different things, I won't read through all of them, but the idea is we want to get things that are flammable away from windows and doors. We want to close the windows and doors. We want to close the garage, because I don't know about you, but look at how many things are in your garage. You don't want those embers getting in there because there's probably paint and all this other stuff. You want to keep that door closed once you get your car out, of course. If you've got propane tanks, we've all got gas grills. That's another important one. You want to try and get those away from the home right before you go. If you don't have a lot of yard space, it's better to get those inside than it is keeping them right next to the house. And then if you've got tools, get those outside. A ladder, get that outside, because that can actually really help firefighters fight any fires that get close to your home. Now, what about protecting your home today? We don't have any fires. What can we do? So we want to talk about defensible space. That's that physical space where the fire isn't going to burn between your home and the forest, the trees, all those plants that might be able to burn. And so we want you to think about embers, right? Those embers are going to get into those smallest little cracks and crevices in the home. And we've got some really great checklists that we'll share with you that will help prevent some of that. But I want to flip to our last video. So rather than hearing about defensible space from me, I want you to hear it firsthand, front and center, from a firefighter fighting the fire.
It's fairly close to the structure, but the good part about this is the owner of the house, he was obviously paying attention when someone told him, hey, you know, you really do need defensible space between vegetation and your structure. Defendable space. gives us time. But you go out here to our north, there's just house after house after house, man, that's just getting beat to crap right now.
All right. So I want to do just a really quick recap of the steps that Luke just covered, some key action steps that you can take before we move into our Q&A session. First of all, as you've heard, look up your wildfire risk. It's really easy and it's really quick. And along with that are those emergency alerts. Sign up for those if you're not already signed up. This is also really quick. You can do it. By the time I'm done speaking, you could have actually already done it. So strongly recommend that. I do want to mention, make sure that you, of course, keep your phone and your ringer on in the event of, so during red flags, for example, I do sleep with the ringer on, which is sometimes a little disruptive, but better than not being safe. And also think about if your cell service is somehow dependent on having power, to think about that and plan ahead for that possibility. Then, of course, use those checklists. The planning, the evacuation planning process and practice is just so key to being ready and to being safe. Customize those, print them, post those, practice those. Steps 4 and 5, again, these are a bit more time and labor intensive, but obviously they really are so important. That creation of the go bag, and then knowing and practicing ahead of time what you need to do is going to be really helpful should you ever have to evacuate. Having that go bag, the contents of that go bag can also be really helpful after the evacuation if you are evacuated for a period of time and or if you unfortunately go on to lose your home. And speaking of that possibility, should that ever come to pass, having video recordings, having photo documentation of the contents is really helpful for the insurance and the recovery process in general. And then lastly, those steps that Luke referred to about creating that defensible space, the home hardening steps will also, of course, decrease the likelihood of you losing your home in a wildfire event. In closing, I just want to really emphasize there's so much in life, especially right now, that we really feel like we can't control, but there is a lot that we can. And taking these steps is one of those things that we can control. And I want everyone to ask themselves just one question, quick, very small thought experiment. If you were to go on to lose your home in a wildfire, and gosh, of course, we hope that never happens to any of us, but if you were, I want you to picture yourself looking back after the fact and think, gosh, based on where I'm at today, what do I wish I had done before that event? I can tell you those that lost their homes do that a lot. They thought that a lot after the loss of their homes. Think about what steps do you wish you had taken should you ever go on to experience the loss of your home? And once you have that list of things you wish you had done, do them. Bit of a thought experiment, might be a little bit stressful and upsetting, but please take those steps now because we have that luxury of time. We know we need to prepare. And so please take those steps now. So I want to thank everyone for being involved today and for your attention and your time. And then I'd like to now turn it over to Skip Skivington for the Q&A.
Well, thanks, Susie. And we got a ton of questions. And I don't think we'll be able to get to all of them, but we can have a continued discussion, I think, through some of these questions. The first one that I see is, and give me a second, I'm a kind of neophyte with some of these tools. It's a good one. And I think Luke can best address this one. And it's about, again, this is outside of the medical center because this comes up a lot. What's the best mask for smoke and air purifiers? Before I let Luke answer that, because we're at Kaiser and we're still in the throes of COVID, even though it's gone down, and you'll hear the term N95s. we don't want you to take medical grade N95s that we need desperately in our medical centers, because we don't know where COVID is going to go next or any other communicable disease. So those are precious resources, as you all know. We've been living through that. So don't go into the supply room and grab a box of N95s for your go bag or things like that. But you can get industrial grade N95s, which are just as effective for smoke from Ace Hardware or places like that. So again, we don't want you dipping into the Kaiser Supply to stock up your go bag. So I know Luke's had some experience with masks and purifiers. So Luke, do you want to give folks your opinion on what the best masks and?
Sure. It's one of the most common questions we get. It's an extremely important question, and I think we're only starting to learn about the long-term effects of inhaling wildfire smoke, because the particles are tiny, 0.25 microns. So I think the first thing is you want to understand what the air quality is at home. And a quick Google search will probably find you 20 different sites that monitor air. So there's I think the one I've got that I use is airnow.gov. Purpleair.com was one that a lot of people used when smoke got really bad last year. So understanding the air quality can help you make some important decisions. The first is you want to stay hydrated. You want to avoid vigorous exercise outside or running around and doing extra stuff in the yard that you don't need to. But keeping doors, windows, garages closed, checking for seals and trying to cover up so things don't come inside. And then from that point forward, I think really all you can do, right? You either have to get away from the smoke, or if you're going to be in, near, or around the smoke, having proper covering over your mouth if you can, or having an air purifier inside. But the micron size that we're looking at is 0.25, 0.3 microns. And so just because you have a filter doesn't mean or a purifier doesn't mean you have the right filter on it necessarily. But those also might be cost prohibitive for you. So even just not overexerting yourself and staying inside can help. But if it comes to a mask, right, the one thing we don't want to do is we don't want to inhale those embers or debris that's floating around in the air. So a basic mask or face covering could help with that. But for those smallest particles, those more advanced masks really matter. And what pains me to see is someone's got the right mask, but they're wearing it down here. They've got it, and I think we learned a lot from COVID, or they're wearing it up over their face, but they don't have it secured, or especially with wildfire smoke, right? It might be behind the ear loops as opposed to behind the head. So that fit test and that seal is really important to keep most of those particles out. But as I hope I just described, Skip, there are a number of steps that you can take before, putting on a full anti-smoke suit or something like that. But again, knowing the air quality, step one, and then trying to take some of those smaller steps, not exerting yourself, and then taking some time to purify the air that's coming into your lungs would be that last step there.
Great, thanks. And then Luke, for you, the app that you were talking about, the wildfire risk, do they have a phone application that can be downloaded?
That's a great question. So the one app I would recommend, and even if I didn't work for the Red Cross, I'd still recommend it, but it's the Red Cross Emergency app, which has got that is one you can physically download. You can put in your home address. You can put in addresses of friends, family, and work, which is important, so you get alerted from them. You can do multiple hazards, not just wildfire. And we talk kind of like Susie and I did about what can you do now and closer to the hazard, right? Closer to the fire. We sort of have what you can do now and a little bit later, just before and after. So we've got some good steps there. And then we also have some checklists built in, which is really nice. The two that I mentioned, wildfirerisk.org and Ready for Wildfire, those are both web and mobile accessible. The Ready for Wildfire, CAL FIRE deliberately made a decision. They used to have an app, but they made a decision to just make it mobile friendly because they were changing the app too much. And this way they can push more real time and just better information. So if you go to the web page, it'll show up very nice, neat, and clean on your phone.
Great, thank you. This next question, I'm envious of the person's condition because they indicate that they own their own RV And if you've tried to rent or buy one lately, you find that there's like a year waiting list for product. But the question is, how could their RV be used in this situation, or is there special tips for RV owners?
That's a great question. Here's what I would say. We see before, during, and after every fire, there are hundreds or thousands of RVs that show up next to or at fairgrounds or shelters, or show up in a, sort of the strip mall parking lot. An RV, I mean, if you've got an RV, put your go bag in your RV today, right? That becomes your mobile command center. Get everything in there so that you can roll out of town. But if you get to a shelter, right, if you want to park that RV, you'll find that you may not have all the hookups, but there might be honey buckets or dump trucks or power hookups that might be provided on sort of the perimeter. But you're more than welcome to access and use those Red Cross or county services inside the shelter. Just because you're in an RV not staying inside doesn't mean you can't use those things. So I would say prep your RV, get everything inside that you need, and again, get out early.
And I think this is Susie. The other thing I would add to that is if you have an area that you might evacuate to that's even farther out of the area than maybe the nearest shelter, is know that ahead of time as well. And much like hotels fill up quickly, I would anticipate that RV parks would also fill up quickly.
And keep it gassed up.
Yeah.
Good. So Luke, you mentioned pets and pet planning. Can you say a little more, particularly about cats? Because those that love cats, own cats, they could, they generally have a mind of their own in these situations. So any additional words of wisdom in terms of cats and how to make sure that they're protected?
Yeah, I mentioned herding cats, and I don't own a cat, but I have friends who do, and I've seen people try to herd them in real time when fires are close. They can be a cat can be squirrely. That sounds weird. But cats can be catty, maybe. But they will move. They will hide. Oftentimes they'll go under beds or in dark corners. We see that happen a lot because pets, animals, livestock, they can sense when this is coming, often earlier and faster than we can. And so what I would say is, as early as possible, you might want to say, oh, well, I want to let, the cat or the dog run freely around the house, but an hour of them being collared or chained or leashed or in the kennel with a little bit of whining or complaining is better than you having to spend an hour and a half trying to find them. Or God forbid, you have to leave your home and you leave the pet behind because now the fire's that much closer to you. I know many people who've been in that situation. Some have lost the animals. And some have, spent weeks looking for them only to find them a couple weeks later roaming the neighborhood. And you don't want that to be you. So I think having that kennel or that crate is extremely important. Get those pet supplies now, just an extra leash, collar, bowl, food, kitty litter, and then, a blanket. Because also one thing we find is if they're already kenneled or crated, you might get a hotel owner or a shelter manager who says, sure, you can bring them in. Whereas before they might say no to that, to the pet coming in. Especially on hotels, but also if you can get a blanket to put over that kennel or that crate, that can help calm the animal. And so just lots of things to think about there. But again, if you've got pets, young kids at home, anyone who's older or requires extra time, all of those things add up to you need to spend some extra time thinking about them, and you don't want to do it last minute. They're going to take more time.
And Luke, this is Susie again. I want to add one other thing about the cats because they're near and dear to my heart. Outside cats that many people keep. Certainly in our area, a lot of the cats live indoors because of coyotes and other things. But if your cat is an indoor-outdoor cat, it's really thinking a bit ahead and at least having them inside the house. And then, as Luke said, the minute you're thinking about things are getting crazy and I may have to evacuate, crate them. Way better to listen to them whine for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, than not.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Susie. This is a great question for the both of you. How often do you recommend checking your go bag? There's things in there that are battery powered. There's people have water, food items. So what's the right interval for checking the bag?
Well, I think I'll start, Susie, and you can alley-oop me on this, but
Okay.
it's it depends on what you have in your bag. A lot of things, if you've got water in a plastic bottle, people ask this question all the time. If it's not out in the sun or exposed to the elements, that water can last a really, really long time, years. But in terms of checking your bag, because there might be things you want to add, I recommend at least once a year. And the best way I find to do this is right now, just go into your phone and schedule something. I don't care when, schedule a year from today and just say, check go bag. Or I don't think you probably want to do it on your birthday, but find something, or, a day when you got a lot of meetings, schedule it, do it in 5 or 10 minutes, and you'll thank yourself later. Susie, what have I missed?
The only thing I would add is relative to battery life, is that there are going to be things in your go bag that you are not likely going to really successfully store in your go bag. I'm thinking about medications, for example. So there is always going to be what I would call a supplement, that the thing that you're going to like, okay, and now I need to grab my medications, because you're going to grab, obviously they're going to expire if you leave them, and they don't always do well in storage and so on. So I would add to kind of a supplement when you're grabbing things like the medication, and any, last minute food, et cetera. I would say stock some batteries in there as well, because then, regardless of what the battery life is, what you have already in your go bag, you have extra batteries as backup, and make sure that those are, relatively fresh batteries that haven't been used, batteries still in the package.
Okay, well, as you can tell, we could probably go on for hours, if not days, going through all of these questions and answers. They're great. I hope you got something valuable from this session. I certainly want to thank Luke and Susie for their dedication. And you can, as I told you when I introduced you, their passion just comes through, even through Zoom. So we're so fortunate to have them in our midst and as part of our community. And so with that, I wanted to, again, thank the presenters, thank the support team, and thank you for all that you're doing. And I hope you found this, as I said, very valuable. And if you didn't take away anything other than just this simple notion that don't ever think that it's not going to happen to you. That's the first mistake you can make in planning and preparing. Always assume that it could happen. And if you use any of the things that you learned today, you're going to be so much more prepared. Your family's going to be prepared, and you can get back to the tasks at hand and helping the community at large. So with that, I thank you, and we'll terminate the workshop at this time. So thank you so much.